Hello and welcome to this lecture. This is a part 4 of Build Your First Web App. In this lecture, we are going to write a C# code that will determine the behavior of the page. All right, back to our Visual Studio. We are going to double click on the Click Me Please button, which is just double click on that. And what that will do, notice it has generated some C# code. It has also launched the new tab called identity.aspx.cs. All right, so notice we've got some C# code here, and notice on line 19 we've got a cursor flashing, and just above it we have got curly braces. You've got the opening curly braces and this closing curly braces, and above it, above the curly braces, we've got a block of code called OK button underscore click. This code here, OK button underscore click. So whatever code we write in here will determine the behavior of this button. So I'm going to write a bunch of code. I want you to write exactly the way I've written it. Don't worry too much about understanding it at the moment. Just try and follow along as much as possible. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to type in the word string. Okay. Notice this is called IntelliSync, so it determines that you're trying to write something and gives you some clues as to what it is you're trying to write. So I'm trying to write string, so I just double click on the word string there, and so it'll be string space first name. Notice I'm using camel case. Please note the string here should be the S should be a lowercase, okay? Which tells you that the string basically is a text. If you're trying to write a collection of text, it's known as a string, okay? So you can see here the tooltip says that represents text as a series of Unicode characters. So this is a string, and I'm going to give it first name, and I'm going to apply an operator, give it to equals to sign, and I want that to equals to first name, first name dot text. So this first name here will be referencing the text box, the first name text box, and it is a text, hence I put it first name dot text. Okay, whenever you've got squiggly lines underneath, that means the Visual Studio is not happy about something. So at the end of each line of a code, you need to put a semicolon to show that you have completed that line of code. Whenever you see red squiggly lines, it means that Visual Studio is not happy about something. I think I know what the problem is. Notice the string here. When we designed this this box, when we designed the text box, the text was called first name. The actual name also was called first name. So it looks like there may be some conflict here. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the designer and modify the name of the text box. So go back to the designer, click on view and go designer, and click on the first name text box. Yeah. So we're going to go right down to the properties. I've already done that. I've added the name. I've added box to it to modify that. I'm going to do the same here. with the last name, come right here and just gonna add box, so there's no conflict. All right, so if I now go back to my code by double clicking this here, you notice if I add box here then the red squiggly lines should disappear. If I do the same here with the last name, notice the red squiggly lines has disappeared. So it didn't like the fact that my string was called first name and the value was also called first name. All right, so I've made that. You notice the red lines have disappeared. When you've got the yellow strip here, just note that is a guide to let you know that you have not saved your code. Okay, let's continue with the code. So I'm gonna go for another line here. Just press enter on your keyboard a couple of times. So on line 22, I'm gonna add another string here. Notice the IntelliSense. This little menu here is called IntelliSense. So I'm going to add another string, and this time it will be the result string. So I'll type result. The name of this string will be called result, and the value will be equals to hello. All right. And then I'm going to add another text, and to add, I'm going to use the plus operator. First name. Notice the IntelliSense is giving me a clue again. It noticed I've already used some of these, so it's asking me if I want to use them again. I'll click on yes. So I'm going to do hello plus first name space plus double quotes, gonna give a bit of space. This really is to create a space between the first name and the last name. All right, and then we'll go add again to add the last name, do a space and then last name. Notice the IntelliSense again has come in handy. IntelliSense is so useful. It makes you write your code much faster. Notice the red squiggly line is telling me that, hey, what's going on? You haven't finished. So I need to put a semicolon there. Notice it has now disappeared. So what should happen in the text box, if you input your name, your first name, your last name, and click on the button, it should say hello, your first name and your last name. If your name is Joe Blog, it should say hello, Joe Blogs. That's what that is. So we've got our code here set up. The final thing we need to do is to actually call the result, the actual box, the result box. So we need to define the result box. So type result, the result label, sorry. Notice we created a result label. So this would be the result label dot text. We'll click on the text, that's what we want. And we're going to give it a value. And the value will equals to this string here called result, the string we've created on line 22. Okay. Should be lowercase. All right. So that, notice there are no red squiggly lines, which is a good sign that everything is okay with your code. Where you get a squiggly line, you should be worried. Notice this yellow strip here is kind of like warning you that, hey, you have not saved your code. So let's save our code by clicking on this disk here. Just click on it. It says save all, and that should turn green, which means we have now saved our code. Another way you can save your code, you can do file and you can do save all. So it's the same option as what we've just done. Now that we've got our code saved, we can test our web page application. So the web app we've created, we can test it. So by clicking on this button here that says Google Chrome, if this is showing Google Chrome because Google Chrome is my default web browser. So if your default web browser is Internet Explorer, it will show Internet Explorer or whatever your default web browser is. So if I click on this, it should run the code. So I click and it will display, it will launch hopefully soon. Excellent. So this is the web app we've created. So once you click on that, this is what comes up. So let's type a name in. So if I type a name in, say Rick, and I type in Williams, and I click this, tells me hello Rick Williams. All right, so if you notice, there is no space between the hello and the Rick and the first name, but there is a space between the first name and the last name. So let's try and fix that. So if we open back our code here, so this is the code here. So if you notice, this here creates a space between the first name and the last name. So where it's got this second quotes here, we're just gonna create some space there. You can't actually make changes while your code is running, so that's why you get that message. So you need to terminate your code before you can make changes to the. So to terminate your code from running, you just click on this stop button here that says stop debugging. So you have to stop it before you can make any changes to your code. So that's stopped now. So what I'll do, where it's got the hello there on line 22, I'll just create a bit of a space. Notice the yellow strip has come up showing that I have not saved an item. So I click on save and I will run the app again by clicking on this Google Chrome thing. So you can see the difference now. I put my first name, last name. You can see there's now a space between the hello and the first name and then the last name. Okay, so we achieved that by just creating a space in there. So that is it. When your code is running, you get some diagnostics tools here that also runs, which gives you an idea of the memory your application is using. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to terminate the code, stop it by clicking on stop debugging, and that will stop it from running. All right, so we have successfully created our first web app. Well done. If you've got any issues or if you had any errors along the way, please feel free to let me know. I apologize, this lecture has taken twice as long as I expected. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.